On.
You're listening to the Fantasy Fling Podcast. Take a break from the season-long commitment and join us as we give you the newest and hottest DFS deals, preview the DFS main slate, and take the dreadful walk of shame. Here are your hosts, Brandon and Eric.
Welcome back. It's the last one of the season for the Fantasy Fling DFS Podcast. We're recapping Week 17. I'm all out of sorts here because normally the season would pretty much be over, right? But we got an extra week this year.
This is a new something that's never happened before ever. Week 18. Week 18. And by the way, none of you in season long should be playing your Super Bowl right now. If you are,
if you are, you need to find a better league.
You're doing it wrong.
For sure. That said, we are actually stay tuned because at the end of this, it's okay. She barks here and there.
No, she has to go pee. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, it's fine.
Keep it going.
Yeah. I'll keep it going. So what we're going to do, obviously, we're going to do our regular format. We're going to recap last week, and then we're going to do our preview of Week 18 DFS main slate. But also, we are going to give you, this is our second year of doing this. First year, we just jumped right into it. We just decided let's do this, whatever it may be, and we didn't really know what the hell we were doing. But we started it, and then it continues to snowball. It's snowing. We're in Colorado. It continues to snowball, and we'll continue to grow. So we're gonna make a lot of changes next year for the better. What I like to do is get people to think about DFS. We're not trying to give you the best plays because that is. The best plays, like you can go anywhere. You can just Google like the best plays. If you want the best plays, like go to the fantasy footballers or like go to listen to Osmo and think of the best plays that he's telling you to play. But what I like to do is kind of try to get inside the heads of like the DFS pros. Like this past year, I listened to Jordan Cooper, who's a DFS pro, and how to think like a pro. So I bought his 15-hour audio course, and I've listened to it multiple times. If you ever want to be good at anything, you need to think like the best people in that industry, and just giving the plays. That's literally like taking someone to the lake and fishing and handing them a fish. I mean, like, here you go. Or you can ask them why they're using that lure, why they're using that worm at that time, why they're using power bait. Like, you need to ask things. So that's what we're going to focus on more in 2022. The reason behind someone is doing this. I kind of laugh. I'll be on Twitter sometimes, Eric, and I'll see people just casual, brand new to DFS. They will ask one of the popular, I won't say top pro because clearly they're not top pros with the kind of response they get, but just popular DFS people. They'll be like, what do you think of my lineup? And the response will be like, looks great. And my response to that is, what is this lineup for? Like, if you're telling them their lineup looks great and you don't know what kind of contest they're entering it in, that is an incomplete answer. This lineup could be full of chalk. And I'm like, yeah, it's a great fucking cash lineup, but you're never going to win a GPP with this lineup. So what is it for? So that's what we're trying to do. And that's what we're going to do more in 2022. Open the podcast with a little rant, but we will get to it, of course, here at the end. Some changes we're going to make.
Yeah, man. I mean, most things are usually not static. Right? There's dynamic to it. A change that's allowed. So same thing goes in DFS or season long. Somebody asks a question, it's like, well, in a vacuum, this is the answer, but we don't know the full story.
Right.
Are you going for a ceiling? Are you going for floor? You think you're going to win? Think you're going to lose? So yeah, understandably, it's a good direction to go. I like it. Looking forward to it.
And I'm going to be honest in this. I never got into this space of like creating content so I can have like 1 million followers and just people being like, oh, I love your podcast and this and that. At the end of the day, I just want to win big money in DFS. And if I can help some people along the way, that's awesome. But I've been close very close a couple times this year. We've documented on this podcast. Very close to taking down the play action this year. And you know what? I am going to bink one of these big tournaments. I fucking promise you it's going to happen. It didn't happen in week 17, but it's going to happen. Let's talk about week 17 of DFS main slate last week. So, hot plays week 17. Now, I will say I did hand build some lineups with the two top hot plays at quarterback and wide receiver, and it was the stack last week. If you didn't have this stack in large field GPPs, you didn't win the big monies last week. So Burrow was the top guy versus Kansas City. He had 37 points. Not surprising that Brady was number 2, but it's surprising that he was number 2 with the shit show that was Antonio Brown basically just quitting the team in the third quarter. I mean, we still don't know what exactly transpired on the sideline. Is the Bucs have yet to release him, but no Godwin, no Antonio Brown. Gronk didn't catch any tutties. Doesn't matter. Brady still got 30 points. Russell Wilson, he's not washed, by the way. He never was. He was injured. He had one foot out the door. Russell Wilson is going to win a lot of games in the future for some team. Whether it's the Seattle Seahawks or not, we don't know. But, yeah, he's the third quarterback. Dak versus Arizona coming in at number 4. And Josh Allen versus Atlanta. I actually expected Josh Allen versus Atlanta to do much better than 5th. I kind of thought they would curb stomp the Falcons offensively, but he didn't play the best game, honestly. But, with that rushing upside, you're still going to get there in fantasy. So he did. And then going on to running backs, Rashad Penny.
Again.
Dude, it took him a while to, really get going. I remember several years ago, he was a lot of fantasy football people have a little bit of scouting background, this and that. They were all about Rashad Penny, and it's definitely coming to fruition a bit this year. So, top back this week, 35 points. Singletary, 26 points. Darrell Williams right behind him. And Ramondre Stevenson, 25.7 points. Both those guys. And then Boston Scott versus Washington football team, 24.5. So, a lot of names you normally wouldn't expect to be up here, but that's just kind of how it was at running back this past week. It's playing
Penny,
the value.
man, drafted in the first round, and I listened to RotoViz Radio a lot, RotoViz podcast, with Sean Siegel, but they've been touting him for years and years and years, and the talent's there. He's finally come to fruition after he's drafted 2018, around the 27th overall pick. I had to look that up, but good to see him. Good to see him finally doing it, staying healthy for long enough to score some points.
Undoubtedly.
Well, moving on to the wide receivers, this may be – I'll have to look back on the record books, the stats, whatever. I don't think a rookie's ever had a season like this. I don't think ever. Jamar Chase, he probably won a lot of people their fantasy championships. The finals, he won 58.5 points.
Just
the guy had like 260
good.
yards, 230, whatever it was, and 3 touchdowns. It was insane.
Yeah.
If you had Burrow and Chase together, you probably won hands down. And then, another guy who nobody even knew who he was really until the season started. I guess if you do Dynasty, you know who he was. But Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
38.4 points. He seems to be playing a lot better than his brother, who actually they're going to be playing against each other this week, by the way. Equinemius and Amon-Ra. Some interesting names. You got to meet those parents. But he's had 5 games in a row where he's done really well. So someone to look out for. Devontae Adams, 33 points against the Vikings. DK Metcalf, welcome back. Everyone, he's been there. I mean, what better time to show up than the fantasy Super Bowl for your team? But 30.9 points. And then a guy who, first time on the list, maybe the last time ever, Braxton Berrios.
Yeah.
26.7 points. He's actually been pretty consistent. He's kind of like a Hunter Renfrow, but not quite as good.
Yeah.
But he's been pretty consistent.
By the way, real quick side note, shout out to DFS Army because literally every lineup that was being built had Braxton Berrios in that lineup, and he was like 3,700. You know, he was dirt cheap, and he ended up being chalk. He was like 33% owned. But regardless, dude, like he smashed, and it got to the point where I was like, dude, I have a jet. I have a New York Jet in every fucking lineup. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I started to like just changing players, right? Like around his salary, just to fit other players in, just to not have like 100% exposure to him. But yeah, DFS Army. Use code FantasyFling for 10% off a VIP subscription. Should have had 100% Berrios last week.
Man, he tore it up. I mean, if he was that price, he was like what, almost 8x, 7x something. Dang.
Yeah.
Impressive.
He was over 6x for sure.
All right, moving on to the tight ends. As you mentioned, with Brady, you got Gronk, 21.5 points. Against the Jets, Noah Fant, someone who in my opinion, watched him long enough, feel like he's super talented and should have been on tearing it up this season, has not, but 21 points.
Yeah.
Mark Andrews, pretty much always on the list, 15 points against the Rams. You have Kelsey.
He's matchup proof at this point. I mean,
Andrews?
Crazy. Andrews, yeah.
Yeah. He's better. He's had a better year than Kelsey. I feel like the second half of the season, if you compare them both, Andrews is the one to own. Kelsey, considering there was 34 to 31, so 60, 60 plus points scored in the game. You figured Kelsey would have a better stat line, but he had 13.4 points. I know Darrell Williams scored 2 touchdowns, which took away, and then you have Dallas Goedert, 13.1 points against Washington. It's kind of a sad week for tight ends. I mean, the highest scoring was 21 points. I mean, that's kind of a low scoring week for tight ends for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very volatile, and I wrote about it actually. It was really tight end and defense was what decided the Millie Maker, and I wrote that yesterday as I was kind of looking at obviously the guy who won the Millie Maker, but Osimo. He had 2 lineups in the top 20 of the Millie Maker, finished 7th overall. And really the difference between him winning it and finishing 7th was tight end and defense. This is kind of how it goes. It's very high variance, and flip a coin, roll the dice, whatever it may be. This is kind of how it goes. But yeah, Andrews he's been the number 1 tight end on the season. So certainly right there,
Indeed.
Eric.
Yeah, man. Moving on to defense, if you want to round that out.
Yes, sir. So the Bears defense, and it's kind of what I was alluding to just a minute ago, pick the right defense, right? So when you're talking about like a GPP with 150,000 plus entries, you can have 2 defenses in like a really good matchup, but if you want to win that competition, you basically have to pick the right defense. Which could be like 5-6 point difference really between like 1st and 10th place. So the Bears defense, 21 points versus the Giants. That was the one that did it. A lot of people played the Saints or the Titans, and those were good matchups too. Specifically the Saints going against Carolina with 15 points. But yeah, the Titans, they got there going against Miami. It was not a good day for Tua. Obviously, didn't really expect the Ravens to be third here, especially, no Lamar Jackson. You got Huntley starting, but Stafford hasn't been right. He threw 2 interceptions. He fumbled the ball. This is a team, regardless of how they played in recent weeks, they still are probably one of the front runners to win it all, because you look at that defense, Stafford turns the ball over 3 times, doesn't play well, and they still find a way to win the game. You got Aaron Donald, you got Von Miller, you got Jalen Ramsey. This is how you win championships. So, and then the Rams in the same game, right behind him, 13 points. And then had a lot of Chargers exposure because it's going against Denver, it's going against Broncos, going against Drew Lock. So they were 5th, 13 points.
I'm surprised the Ravens actually scored that well too with their secondary usually giving up a lot of points. I don't know, man. I'm not sold on Stafford. He's kind of reverting to what he did in Detroit.
It's horrible. He has no excuse. I thought he was better than this point,
but he's looking like Detroit Stafford.
He literally has no excuse. He has an elite defense. He has a great running game, whether it's Michelle, it's Henderson, it's Akers. He's got Cooper Kupp. You're talking about a wide receiver who's he literally is on pace to break the single season receiving record. Well, dude, why are you turning the ball over? Like I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. He's trying to fuck over my pick for basically when they traded for Von Miller. I was like, this team's a lock. I was like, if Von Miller stays healthy, the way this team's been playing, if Von Miller just adds to Aaron Donald and that defense, they're a lock to win the Super Bowl. And as soon as I made that, I think $100. I put down $100 to win $750. They start playing like ass, and I'm like, God damn it! And Stafford really is the one's been playing like ass. Like, what is happening? But the playoffs are here, and anything can happen, Eric.
Yep, that's true, man. You never know. The only one thing we know for sure is that Brady will kick it up a notch in the playoffs. Other than that, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And what happened? The memes were hilarious, but what happened with Antonio Brown? We know he's a loose cannon. We know this.
So apparently he Arians asked him to go in the game, and he said he had an ankle injury. He said his ankle hurt. He didn't want to go in. So Arians asked him again, and he said no. And then he said, get out of here. I don't think he meant get out of here like leave the team. I think he meant get out of here like you're done for the day. Yeah. And he took it because he's not a very smart individual.
No, he's a loose cannon for sure.
He may be athletically gifted and talented. There's no question, but intelligence wise, probably not as much. But he took that maybe as you're done permanently, and so he went out with a bang, I guess. I know. All I gotta say is like if his ankle's hurting as bad as he was, if you watch him like doing skipping and jumping and hopping and doing all this stuff, it's like, is your ankle that bad? Yeah, you're doing all kinds of shit jumping on your jumping. So I don't know.
I'll say this.
Like you said, he's a loose cannon. So
yeah, I'll say this, dude. It's well documented. If you know me, like which you do, or anyone in our league, like I gave Paul so much shit like a couple years ago for just like being all in on Antonio Brown, like second round pick for him, just nonsense. But I'll say this, like if you have a loose cannon like that, like they can definitely cost you a lot of money, which it did last week. He was a smash play with Godwin out and his price. Like I played him everywhere. I lost so much money because of him. Like I had to start hand building lineups because every lineup in the optimizer he was coming up in. And if he had caught like a couple touchdowns, he would have smashed. And the thing is, specifically with Brady and Antonio Brown, like Brady loves Antonio Brown. He petitioned to get him in New England. Then he brought him to Tampa Bay. And, it went really well early on at Tampa Bay. Like, the shit that's happening this year, I expected it to happen last year because he just lost his mind. Brady is all about getting him incentives. Dude, he literally threw like $1 million away. So I kind of think he had to be hurt, but maybe he wasn't that hurt, and Brady wasn't looking at him enough, and he didn't think he was going to hit the incentives, and he just lost it because clearly he's a loose cannon. It's crazy. I don't know. I will say, like, the one thing that made me laugh when he was like leaving the field, because like I said, I had him everywhere. I had him in cash, I had him in tournaments, and if he had a big day, I would have had a big day. But I was just like laughing at the reports because I was like, this is the only way to make this day any better. It's just watching the shit show of Antonio Brown just like quitting on his team in the third quarter.
And they won. They still ended up winning.
Yeah, they still ended up. And of course, Brady hits some no-name guy like for just like a dagger to win the game, And I mean, it's the Jets. It's like right away, but still. Doesn't really matter who he has. It's gonna do some things.
He's a stud.
Moving on to week 18, Eric.
Yeah.
Right before we move on to week 18, this is our last Fantasy Fling podcast of this season. Of course, we'll do Making a Million on Friday, and I'll be the last one of that. But as far as a seasonal walk of shame, a week of 17 walk of shame, you got a walk of shame? I've got a couple.
Week 17, I'll admit I didn't. I was out of town visiting some friends, and during the New Year, and we pretty much stayed out together late every night. Did not do any DFS at all. So that's my walk of shame, is that I didn't even participate. Even like to take 10 minutes or 15 minutes to throw a lineup together. That's my walk of shame, because I could have taken 20 minutes and built something, but I didn't, and that's on me. So apart from that, I only won. Well, I guess it's not a walk of shame, so never mind. That's about it for me. That's because I didn't really participate in week 17 much in DFS. That's pretty much my walk of shame. Not much won of this week.
Yeah. Well, I have one. It's the first year, and I don't know how many years that I haven't won a championship at DFS, and that hurt a little bit.
I have to throw the biscuits in. Be right back. 2 seconds.
Okay. So that's walk shame for me. That hurt a little bit. When I started to focus a lot more on DFS, one thing that started to suffer was a season long, which is why I've cut quite a far back from the amount of leagues I used to be in. That said, I put it down to 5 leagues this year, and I'm also very outdoorsy and pretty much outdoorsy as it gets. So I missed a couple drafts. I auto-drafted. I still thought I could win some championships. You can't auto-draft in a competitive league and win championships. I found out this year. So that's my walk of shame. I had one league this year out of 5 where I made the playoffs, and I didn't win. I lost in the first round. It's fine. I'm more of a DFS player these days, so that's more important to me. DFS, best ball, that's where I'm at in 2022. I got like 3 leagues, 2 dynasty, 1 season long. I'm good with that. I'm here to make money. My DMs are open. I will help you win your season long, your dynasty league. I helped a guy last week win his championship. And going back and looking at it, he asked me, he's like, who would you play here? And he had a bunch of running backs, great running backs. And I was like, you should play all those. You should play 3 running backs. Just going to tell you, at least you should play 3 running backs. And it ended up going really well. He scored 158 points in championship game. He won by 35 points. So my DMs are open. But I'm a DFS player. That's where it's at.
5 leagues. I heard you when I was up there because I was getting the biscuits.
I'm in 3 leagues now. 3 leagues.
5. Man, I wish.
I was in 5. I'm down to 3.
I think I talked about earlier in the season about how many I'm in. Oh my god, I need to.
I ain't got time for that shit.
I'm in. God.
Well, here's 18? The thing, Eric.
18.
That's crazy to me. In the time of COVID. So if it was just injuries,
I joined a lot during COVID. Yeah, I will admit.
If it was just injuries, it wouldn't really be a problem. But COVID adds another element when Sunday morning, dude, my entire mindset on Sunday morning is DFS. I cannot be changing out all these players because of COVID news on Sunday morning. When the news comes out, I'm like, how can I get leverage on the field? I ain't got time for that shit. I ain't got time for 18
Ain't nobody
weeks.
got time for that.
Yeah. You win one DFS tournament, it'll set you up for 10 years at being really good at season long. I ain't got time for that shit. Can't do it. Can't play with them. Can't coach with them. Can't do it. I ain't got time for it.
I tell you what, I do have a lot of leagues. I do keep track of everything in a spreadsheet. And so when a player needs to get replaced, I replaced that player. I'm working on building a Python script to do that automated almost with one click of a button, but that's in the
there
future.
you go.
There you go, man.
Yeah, you have to. There's a lot of fantasy football degenerates that'll be all over that shit. You're gonna get rich off that. I'm trying to get rich off DFS, so let's look at week 18. DFS makes
18.
Slate.
Hit those Vegas lines, baby. Because Vegas knows.
Go with it, Eric.
Better than we do. I mean, the house always wins, right? That's why we follow the Vegas lines.
Yes, sir.
The highest on the card on the main slate is a 48-point spread. That's Seattle and Arizona. Arizona is favored. 27-point team total projection. I don't know. Seattle, if
I like that game.
I do too, man.
I like it for tournaments. I'm all about it for tournaments. Wilson wants to leave with a bang. Yes,
exactly. If it's his last game in Seattle, or playing for that team, he doesn't want to look like shit moving on to the next team. So he's going to give it everything he's got. They can't make the playoffs. He's not playing for anything other than pride and maybe his next team. Next game
Denver
on the
Broncos.
We'll see.
The Denver
man.
Broncos.
We'll see. He can come to the Raiders if he wants.
No, he's gonna save Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick. And no offense, fantasy value.
They do have a great receiving core, and they just need a quarterback. The Broncos in general only need a quarterback, and I think they'd be in pretty good shape. Honestly, I think that's the missing piece. Everything else is pretty good.
They're a quarterback away from being a contender.
I 100% agree, and I'm a Raiders fan.
There's no team that's more ready for a quarterback than the Broncos.
I think they're home. Just FYI, so Bailey might trip.
Yeah.
All right. Next game on the slate, 44.5-point spread. You got Chicago and Minnesota. Another divisional game. Minnesota's favored with 24-point team total projection. That's Justin Fields coming back. We'll see how it goes, but I like Cousins in this game a lot. The next on the slate, same thing, a 44.5-point spread. It's Green Bay and Detroit, another divisional game. I think as they end the season now, actually all of the teams on this the Vegas lines at the top point spreads are all divisional games. So I'll stop saying that. But Green Bay and Detroit, 44.5-point spread. Green Bay is favored, of course, 24-point team total, which is surprising. That means they think Detroit's going to score 20. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Indy and Jacksonville. It might be Jonathan Taylor's season to round the season out. It's by the way, if Jacksonville beats Indy, the Chargers and the Raiders both make the playoffs. Just saying, if Jacksonville beats Indianapolis, both those teams make the playoffs. Crazy shit. That is a 44-point spread with Indianapolis favored heavily with a 30-point team total. And the last one is also 44-point spread. San Francisco and the Rams. Rams are favored with a 24-point team total. But yeah, there's some crazy things going on. If the Raiders beat the Chargers, they're in. If the Chargers win, they're in. If Andy loses, both of them are in. Crazy, lot of things going on. I know that's not DFS, but I'm excited because I'm a Raiders fan.
I mean,
they'll probably get knocked out in the first round, but at least they make it. That'd be great.
I'm here to tell you it's false hope. It's like with the Broncos. People are like, oh, it's December. We're in the hot. We're not winning shit. Okay. The only thing we're doing is fucking ourselves out of a great first round pick, and who knows how many other picks.
Hey man,
we're not winning anything.
If the Raiders beat the Chargers, they are in. That's said and done. It's in their hands. If they win, they are in. Simple as that.
What a story that would be after emails, after DUI arrests. They've had two.
Bro, the team's gone through. I mean, yeah, I get the team is there's a lot of bad apples on the team throughout the years for sure, but all they've gone through, everything they've gone throughout the season, if they make the playoffs, I'm impressed.
And here's the thing. I've been in Vegas enough times. Like, what are you doing getting a DUI in Vegas? I can't even walk down the street without getting without taxis like running up to me like prostitutes. It's like, yo, what are you doing? Come in here. Like, you need a ride? I'm like, no, dude, my hotel's right there. I can walk. I go, I'm fine. Yeah, it's crazy to me that these guys get DUIs in Vegas of all places. Like, You can
Yeah,
get
man.
a taxi, an Uber, a Lyft, or your beck and call. You can get a limo service. Like, you can flag them down on the street. You can walk anywhere. You can get it on your phone. Like, it's
And on top of
totally
it,
unexcusable.
they have an entire service dedicated to NFL players. The NFL does. On top of all that.
Zero excuses.
Yeah, so all those games, as mentioned, are divisional matchups. They're all division matchups. So,
Yeah.
good stuff. I think, God, I have to look at the whole slate. Is everything on there a divisional game?
Yeah, they tend to make a lot of those games
I believe
divisional.
every single game I'm looking at on every slate is a divisional game.
Let's go over to the domination station.
I'm looking at every game, and I
Yeah.
think they're all divisional. Every single game this week. Yep.
Yep,
every game.
They are. They make them all divisional so they could decide all the tie.
Well, there's some big
scenarios.
changes coming.
Yeah.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
Moving on from the Vegas lines, as mentioned, there's some kind of lower. The 48 is the highest point spread. It's not high, but it's okay. You never know. Things can just go crazy. Let's move on to some players we like, man. Start with the quarterbacks.
When it comes to the quarterbacks, one guy I'm considering cash this week. That's Trey Lance. Saw enough last week. Damn, his salary is a bit higher.
55 hundo. 5,500.
55 hundo?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This seems to be not
The
accurate.
chalkboard's not updated, by the way, if you're looking at that.
No, I was just looking at the domination station, so I think it froze on me. That's why.
Yeah, Trey Lance is 5,500.
Yeah, I knew he didn't rise all the way up to 7,000. There's no way. Yeah, he's my cash game quarterback this week, for sure. As far as tournaments, I am looking to target Russell Wilson, some Calamari. I like a little bit of that. Really, what you want? Obviously, you're gonna have your cash game quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and typically gonna follow the chalk. But what I'm looking for in this juncture, week 18, I'm looking for teams with a lot on the line. Okay, we're talking about seeding, we're talking about making the playoffs, we're talking about bonuses, all those things. So show me those teams, and that's where I'm going to be targeting my tournament builds for sure. So Arizona, I like them. Chicago versus Minnesota, there's not much there. Green Bay versus Detroit. Indy versus Jacksonville. Okay. There's no way Jacksonville's winning that game, by the way, Eric. There's no way. Jonathan Taylor is going to be my running back of the week. He's going to run wild over Jacksonville like he did last time.
To be honest with you, I didn't think Jackson would beat Buffalo either, though. So you just never know.
But by the way, San Fran, if they win, they're in. I like that game this week. I do like that game. It's one to target. But yeah, my quarterback for the week in cash gonna be Trey Lance.
Well, man, Trey Lance, it's a good play. I like him. He's unless he runs. I mean, he got that new era of the running quarterback. I like Trey Lance as well. I also have Taysom Hill at 6,200 in there against the Falcons. Falcons. No, they played Carolina. Sorry, they played the Falcons. Sorry, I was mixing myself up. They played Panthers last week, and the team next to him is the Anyway, yeah, I like Taysom Hill at 6,200. I also like Huntley at 5,700 because it looks like Lamar might miss another game. He likes to. I mean, he didn't have a great week last week, but he has shown that he has a high ceiling, and he's very cheap at 5,700. You want to spend up a little. I do like Josh Allen's matchup this week against the Jets. It could be good. I mean, they are better against the pass than they are the run, but hopefully I feel like Josh Allen will have a good game. And another guy that I'll probably play more so in like tournaments, which is, I know this is our cash show, but one guy to throw out there. I like Cousins. May play him in a tournament just because it's a divisional game, and those can oftentimes either shut or done. So, yeah. If he plays,
he's trying to make a case that he should be
he's
trying to make a case that he should be the quarterback next year, and that's that could be a pretty big case for sure.
He should play because I forgot that they changed the guidelines from 10 to 5 days, so he should be eligible. but we'll see how that
Yeah.
goes. But if he plays, yeah, I like it for tournaments. But those are the three guys, Josh Allen, Taysom Hill, and Huntley, and of course Lance, your guy you mentioned for quarterbacks.
Yeah. So what happened was apparently I clicked FanDuel earlier, so that's why Trey Lance was so highly priced. He's 7K on FanDuel. I will not play him on FanDuel, but yeah, 5,500 on DK. Give me all the Trey Lance for sure. As far as running backs, I don't know. You have a decision to make, right? So you're going to play Jonathan Taylor or you're going to play Cooper Kupp. Unless enough value opens, which some started to open this week, as Joe Mixon has been ruled out with COVID. So, P. Ryan, he is 5,300. That could be some potential value so that you can actually play Jonathan Taylor. You could play Cooper Kupp. If I had to make a decision right now, I would play Kupp this week. Just because there's a lot of 5K backs that I could play. Now, of course, I'll have JT in some, and I know you're a JT truther. I'll have him in tournament builds for sure, but there's a lot of 5K backs that I think could smash this week. We got Antonio Gibson going against the Giants. We got David Montgomery. We got Singletary going against the Jets. So, and then I just mentioned Samaje Perine. He could be a 5,300 back. More than hit salary, more than hit 2-3x. So that's where I'm looking as of right now as far as the backs for the week.
I like it, man. I know we talked about Samaje Perine earlier. I like him as well because Mixon is pretty much out. They do have Burrow is also out, but not because of injury, just because they, win or lose, their position doesn't change, and they're going to rest him for the playoffs. But, Samaje Perine in place of Mixon has played well, so I like that pick a lot. One other guy who I always thought was really good, like a kind of a Kareem Hunt guy, and he's starting to play that way, is Devin Singletary. 6K against the Jets, who have a really bad run defense. They're much better against the pass and the run. I like Singletary a lot. He's been tearing it up the last couple of weeks, and I think the team has realized that he's their back. He's surpassed, Zach Moss, surpassed Burrito. I don't think there's a committee anymore. I think it's Singletary season.
I agree.
I also like David Montgomery against the Vikings. Not a divisional game, but he's pretty safe play in cash. I mean, he gets a lot of touches. He gets receptions. You have Justin Fields coming back. I like David Montgomery at 6,800. And the other guy that I like as well is Devonta Foreman. Deontay Foreman. He's 5,700. He had like 27 carries or something last week. He had a lot of points. He didn't get any receptions, but he did have a lot of carries, and he's a big back, so he can survive a pretty big load. 5,700 is pretty cheap, and he's got a good matchup as well. I forget who they are playing. The Texans are playing the Titans. I guess it's not a great matchup, but he gets the opportunities there. He gets a lot of touches, and he's pretty inexpensive.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. You know what? I'll tell you what. Since I can do the draft, like a snake draft, kind of come back around. I'll just continue back with the receivers. So the first guy I'm gonna throw out there is Justin Jefferson. I've said it before. I mean, he's got to surpass guys like Adams and such, but he may be the best receiver in the league. The guy's a stud. If Cousin comes back, I like Jefferson in cash and/or tournaments. Doesn't matter. I like him both. He's expensive, 8,100, but he's a stud. He's not nearly as expensive as 9,700 for Kupp. Another guy that I like is Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6,800. The last 5 weeks straight, he's performed really at a high level. Doesn't matter whether it's Tim Boyle or with Jared Goff. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is, they target the hell out of him. He's played like a stud. And the last guy on the list is Brandon Cooks, 6,300. We have David Mills. He targets the hell out of him. I think he missed last week. Cooks did because of COVID, if I'm not mistaken. But he's coming back this week as a better matchup against a secondary than the run. But I like Brandon Cooks because David Mills targets the hell out of him at 6,300.
Yeah. I dig that, Eric. I like that. So, yeah, I'm all about Cooper Kupp this week. It's an important game, obviously. I think on the other side of that, in tournaments, San Fran, they have a lot to play for. They have a playoff game on the line. So if you can play Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, and then potentially, I don't know, he can play running back because Elijah Mitchell might not play. So there's some opportunities there, but obviously playing Trey Lance, and then obviously Kupp, he has a lot of incentive to be the number one receiver in league history this week. He's going for a record. So Jefferson, too, for sure, going against Chicago. Those are some good guys. As far as fantasy points per dollar, top guys, DJ Moore, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. Oddly enough, Marvin Jones, he's popping right now on the optimizer. We'll see how that ends up. But, the Titans going against the Texans. I'm going to lock up that number one seed with a win. A.J. Brown, he's popping a little bit. Is Derrick Henry going to play? I don't know. That might actually help A.J. Brown. If you have play action, you have Derrick Henry to set up that play action. A.J. Brown, certainly the beneficiary. We've seen a lot of big games from him with Henry in the mix. So that is where I am looking right now as far as top projection. Looking at the chalk, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs. Yeah, Diggs going against the Jets for sure. Oh, those are going to be the top guys. Makes a lot of sense.
If Henry plays, you probably want to take a backseat on Foreman, by the way.
Of course.
Just FYI.
Yeah. And we'll see where Stephon Diggs' projection ends up. So I could certainly see him being a nice piece in tournaments. He is a little high priced, and Josh Allen hasn't been playing very well as of recent. But 7,800 going against the Jets, 13% projected ownership. He's looking to be chalkier as of right now. So maybe specifically in a lineup where you don't play Kupp, but you play Jonathan Taylor, you can afford to play Stephon Diggs.
I'm thinking that there's no reason for Henry to come back. The Titans won
this week, unless they give him a few carries to just kind of, get him. If he's ready, just give him a few carries, just kind of knock some of the cobwebs off. It's possible.
Because no matter what happens, the Colts can't win. The Titans win the division, win or lose. So I don't think it matters.
Yeah,
what they do.
But they can win number one seed.
I guess they're playing for number one seed, so that does kind of matter.
First round bye.
But they're in the playoffs regardless. So I think, they may. Guess we'll see what happens. But they are playing for number one seed.
Yeah, and it's you never know because it could be just like an extra week to make him heal if they think that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they shouldn't need Derrick Henry to beat the fucking Texans, but.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, they should. I would imagine they're probably going to rest him so that if they do get the bye week, they get the extra week to heal. But we'll see.
The Texans have played well, so we'll see. I mean, they played way above expectations without Deshaun Watson. We'll leave it at that. So going on to tight ends, a little bit of value. Cole Kmet's coming in the top fantasy points per dollar play right now, 2.61. Zach Ertz just behind him, 2.57. Of course, Cole Kmet's 3,400. Zach Ertz is 5,300. We got Higbee at 4,000. And then, if you're looking for some value after that, just below Gronk, who's obviously always a tournament play, we got Brevin Jordan. He's 2,700. And John Bates just below him at 3,000. So there are some pay down options this week. It's probably where I'll be looking.
Yeah, I'm with you there on. I have Zach Ertz listed. He's a little expensive. He's 5,300. I have Cole Kmet as well, 3,400. And another guy I like is Jared Everett.
Yeah,
another divisional game. He's 3,700, but Wilson likes to target him, especially in the red zone as well. So like Everett as well. If you're feeling crazy, a guy who always is a threat in the end zone is Pat Fryermuth. He's 4,600 as well. Just throw him out there. It's Big Ben's probably last. I think they can make the playoffs, right? They can't make the playoffs, can they? I'm looking at it right now. I don't know if they can make the playoffs. They're
I don't think
8-7-1.
Yeah.
They might be able to make the playoffs, but either way, it might be Big Ben's last game. They're going to try regardless. So, like that as well.
Absolutely. So for me on defense, it's pretty straightforward. We got no Joe Burrow this week.
Browns. That's what I was going to say.
Browns.
Too.
Yeah, the 2,600. That's your pay down option. We got no Burrow. We got a backup. I'm all about it. I guess another option would be the Vikings going against the Bears. It's not a horrible option, but for cash, I'm probably just gonna take the punt. 2,600 for sure. I'm gonna do the Browns.
I like the Browns. One team that I may pay up for because they are on their third string quarterback is the Washington football team.
Yes.
They're playing the Giants with their third string quarterback, Jake Fromm, because first string's out, second string's out. They're on their third guy.
Yeah.
And Washington's defense has been playing better lately. They're 3,100, but I might be willing to pay up even in cash because I think it's a great matchup against a third string quarterback. Then the other team that I threw out there, I'm kind of iffy on them, but it might be the Cardinals. They've had a pretty good defense all year. Wilson had one good game, but I don't know. He's shown that he can have pretty bad games lately. So the Cardinals are 2,700. That might be more of a tournament thing where you take a risk, but yeah. Anyway, that's for sure the Browns and Washington football team are the two teams I like.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna do it for cash week 18. DFS mini slate. We've come to the end. We got one more podcast on the season. We're gonna do the Making a Millie one last time. Throw one last bullet in the Millie Maker. That said, as year 2 of Fantasy Fling comes to a wrap, we're gonna make quite a bit of changes. Growth is always important, and a couple things I want to change in 2022. Number one, we're gonna rebrand. So we're still gonna focus on DFS. It's still going to be Fantasy Fling. The name is going to stay the same, but we're going to rebrand the logo. We're going to change that up a little bit. Number 2, I have shifted more of our focus this year analyzing what pros do. Top pros. What are they doing to win tournaments? So I'm going to run a weekly stream just analyzing the top pros. What was their strategy this week? Why did they do it this way? And, how did it work for them? So we're talking Chipotle Addict, we're talking Osmo, all these guys, Megan Joy, gals too, the top pros and what they're doing each and every week. How are they tackling that slate to maximize the profits? Because that's what they do. So we're going to start looking at that. Other thing I want to do, obviously, we do the write-up on the Mailing Maker, and I love it. I'm going to continue to do it. Learned a lot about it in this past year, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. But also want to look at various other contests. So 50, 25, 50 contests, whatever it may be. Entry fee, entry amount, ownership, total ownership in those contests, how many stacks were used, overall pricing, this and that. What we're going to do is actually more so like a Google spreadsheet. So we're going to look at it from a numbers basis, just DFS by the numbers, pure numbers. Not going to do write-up, Google Sheet. This is several parameters that you want to put into your optimizer if you're trying to win this contest, this contest, this contest, this contest. So those are some of the things you can expect from Fantasy Fling in 2022. I'm excited about it. I feel like Eric, you and I, we talked about doing a podcast for years, and we started last year, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We just started it. It's like get started, then get fancy later. Now it's to get fancy time.
Yeah, absolutely. Third year coming up, the best one yet.
Yeah, I almost fucking took down the play action this year. Almost. I'm gonna figure that shit out. I'm gonna figure it out. I've been close, but the only way to do that, I don't care whatever line of work you're in, whatever industry you're in. If you want to be great at something, you learn from the greats. That's the only way to do it. That is the only way to do it. You learn from the people who are the best in the industry. You study what they do. You watch their moves. You watch how they talk, how they think, all those things. That is the only way to be extremely successful at anything in any walk of life. So that's what we're going to continue to do.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely look forward to the next season.
Yeah, buddy. Well, that's going to do it for Week 17 recap, Week 18 preview, and really Fantasy Fling DFS podcast on the season. And then we will do one more on Friday. Making a Millie. One last time, looking at the Millie Maker once more.
Appreciate it.
Can't wait.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad we got this second year in. Being the owner of Five Guys right here, Chael Sonnen. It's been a fun season. I'm glad to still have a home that we're sitting in right now. There's a fire like 2 miles away that came real close to us.
Yeah,
so I'm happy to have a home. They're grateful to be alive and have a place to live and do what we do. So thank you all. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wrap for this season of the Fantasy Fling DFS podcast. We will see you on Friday for Making a Million. We'll wrap that up. Good luck this week. It's going to do it.
Good luck. Out.
Later.